Rory Coutts, Middlesex Cricket, Head of Youth Cricket, thanks so much for joining us. We're here at Lord's. Rory, it's been an extraordinary year, but there has been one enormous positive to come out of that, and that's the emergence of young talent in the first 11, with 5 of our academy making their professional debuts.
Fletch, hi, thanks for having me. Yes, it's been an incredibly challenging year for the country, for cricket, for everyone, but that one real positive has been young players from a Middlesex perspective, first and foremost, but also across the country, so many young players making their debut and having an impact on first team cricket. So for Middlesex and for English cricket, a very pleasing year.
Whilst this year has obviously shone the light on those youngsters, this is a well-trodden path. You've had so many youngsters come through our academy into the first 11. The process seems to be working well.
Yeah, I think first of all, those 5 lads, it's brilliant to see young players make their debut, and I know Tills has had to wait for other reasons to make his first team debut, but those other lads from Blake, who's 18, and the 2 lads who are 19, it's been a brilliant summer for them. So in terms of the progression, I think we've been very lucky over the last few years. We've got a club who wants to back young players, but equally that players are making their way up through the pathway and into the first team. So I think 14 of the 22 professional staff players now have come through the academy, with some of those having played youth cricket alongside that. So we're starting to get there from a real homegrown feel to the club. So very pleasing from that perspective, yes.
Absolutely. I mean, that's any county's dream, to have a starting 11 made up of homegrown talent. I guess you could argue the point that the pandemic has had an impact on us not getting overseas players, so that's perhaps opened up more opportunities for the youngsters. But boy, they've taken those chances, haven't they?
I think definitely from not having overseas players coming over has opened up slots. But I think Stuart said in an interview last week about that blend between youth and experience, and every club wants that blend, and at the moment you've got some really well-established first-team cricketers, and if you can get with lots of experience, and if you can get a lot of exciting young players around them, I think that's the blend that everyone's aiming towards, and having a huge portion of those being homegrown helps a lot. So absolutely.
Here. When you look at the likes of Blake, Tillan, Luke, Joe, Jack, all shone this year, they seemed incredibly well prepared for life on the big stage. Is that something you work with them on at the academy so that they're kind of ready for that step up?
I think first and foremost, the academy's there to try and produce players who can make that step up. All of them will go about and reach it in their own time, so to speak. But I think you are trying to give them a good grounding with good basics, with a real understanding of their strengths and who they are as cricketers, so they can then, when they're thrown with different challenges and problems, they've hopefully got a real foundation to meet those challenges head on.
Rory, I guess the real poster boy, if you like, of the academy is Stephen Finn. Made his first-class debut at 16. 15 years later, he's captaining one of the sides. 400 appearances for the club, 120 appearances for England. How much of a role model is someone like Finney, who the youngsters can look at and genuinely see what is achievable?
A huge role model. I think he's obviously a hugely successful cricketer for Middlesex and has been for England. And I think not only the role model status, it's more how he's integrated with some of those young lads. I mean, we were lucky enough to go to La Manga last February, and a group of fast bowlers came with us, and Finney was one of those bowlers, and he was outstanding with the youngsters. And you know, he on the first day he sort of said, "Listen, lads, we're all here to train together," and it made it one club, and that's a huge positive for those younger lads, because he's approachable, and as you say, he's an outstanding cricketer. So it's brilliant to have people like that who the boys can look up to.
Couldn't agree more. You mentioned the involvement of the first 11 and their influence on the academy. That process is carried through online in this strangest of years, when we've all taken to Zoom like it's second nature. I know you've had a number of the pros getting on those Zoom calls talking to the youngsters.
Yeah, we have, and they've been outstanding with giving up their time, and also just the openness with which they've spoken about their games, how their careers have panned out. And I think it's been exceptional for the youngsters to hear and to be able to engage with the pros the way they have, and all of them would have taken different things out of those chats, but I think it's hit home, it's hit home massively with the messages that they've passed on. So massively beneficial for the youngsters.
It's good to hear. Just going back to Finney for a moment. Finney's a bit of an enigma, obviously. He's been at the club a decade and a half. He's made Middlesex his home since a very young age, and his debut at 16. You've had a lot of youngsters come into the club and subsequently leave. It just seems nowadays youngsters are just impatient to get cricket. That must firstly be a frustration for you, and secondly, how do we combat that?
I think, professional sport is tough and opportunities are tough to come by, and I think young players specifically, I know some have left to go to other counties when they may have stayed. I think it is you want to keep your best talent, you want to keep young players, you want them to stay in, but also professional sport is something that people are striving for opportunities and striving to get into first team. So it's one of those difficult ones that you have to combat, but hopefully we can keep as many of those good young players here as we possibly can and look to continue to develop them into players who can move this club forward.
I suppose fundamentally your remit as head of that academy and head of youth cricket is just to keep that production line ticking and just keep generating talent.
Yeah, absolutely. It's to try and find as many players out there who have got the ability to hopefully one day be professional cricketers, and then try harness it and direct it into players that can give Gus, Stu and the rest of the coaching staff as many headaches as possible as to whether they sign them or who they sign moving forward. So absolutely.
As for the here and now, Rory, it's obviously been a very difficult summer. We've come out of that, we're into winter training now, but you've yet to get your hands on the academy boys other than virtually on Zoom, and I know they're all working hard at home on individual programmes. How frustrating has that been? We're here at Lord's today with the pros, who can obviously train because of their elite status. But how frustrating has that been for you as head of the youth setup to not actually be able to get them firing yet?
It is frustrating, but I think given it's November, there's probably, if there's a month that you wouldn't mind missing, November wouldn't be the worst one to miss. So the boys have been brilliant over the last month. We've done physical Zoom sessions as well as cricket chats, and we're hoping to get going in the next week or so up at Finchley, and it'll give the lads a good 3.5 months to get themselves ready for the start of next summer. And I think whilst we've lost some, I think with all the bits that we took out of the cricket we were able to get through the summer, there was huge benefits there. So a little bit of time lost, whilst not ideal, is not really the end of the world. So hopefully we'll be up and running. And as you said, our next challenge is with the boys in terms of their status, because the lads who are 16 and over can train under the elite guidelines, but the boys who unfortunately aren't 16 yet will have to train under recreational guidelines. So there'll be a few challenges moving forward, but I think ones that we'll get stuck into and adapt and find a way to make it work. So
good stuff, Rory. Well, challenging times indeed. Well, look, we'll be up to the academy. If you're back next week, we'll be up next week. We're very much looking forward to seeing how it's all coming together. For any members out there watching this, who are the next cabs off the rank? You've obviously got a crop of talent up there that you're developing. Who should they be looking out for?
Well, hopefully all of them, Fletch. I think it was brilliant to see Josh De Cares in what was a tough year, and Blake Cullen sign rookie contracts last year. So hopefully Blake, I know, has made his debut, but hopefully Josh can be pushing for first team honours in the near future. I think as far as the next ones coming through, I think there's a good crop below. To single out lads would probably be doing them a bit of a disservice, but there's a lot of lads chomping at the bit to hopefully progress with this club. So we'll just keep nudging and nurdling them in the right direction, and hopefully they can push for honours in the future. So exciting times.
A very good diplomatic answer there, Rory. Well, mate, thanks ever so much for joining us. All the very best of luck when you get the boys back, and good luck over the winter.
Thanks very much, Fletch.